What's up, YouTube? My name is Ghrei, and I'm here with another episode of our epic tale. In the last episode, Midoriya discovered that he was a late bloomer, having to wait a year or so before he unlocked his quirk, at the approximate age of 5. As a brief summary, his quirk is called Will-O-Wisp. He can create little floating fireballs surrounded in gas, and he can interact with them like they were solid instead of plasma. Anyone else touches them, and the orbs explode. Larger orbs cost more energy, and thanks to Lemillion training him, Midoriya discovered that he constantly produces the same gas that his orbs are surrounded in. More gas from his body means he interacts with his orbs with more force, but this is something he needs to actively do, as his body doesn't usually make enough for it to even be visible. With that brief summary out of the way, let's dive right back into the story. I'm sure you guys are excited to see what the entrance exam brings to the table, and I'm excited to tell you, so let's go! After making the crucial discovery of Midoriya's steam production and how it interacts with his orbs, Lemillion and Midoriya spent the remainder of the time training not only the latter's orb production and physical capabilities, but also his ability to produce more steam from the pores on his body, and control the parts of his body that produce more steam at any given time. Finally, Lemillion gives him a little bit of combat training, and this'll come into play a little bit later on. Midoriya also ensured to do a bit of carb loading before the entrance exam. His quirk is one that requires a lot of endurance to use for a long time, and what better way to prepare Midoriya for an endurance match than preparing the exact same way that a lot of endurance athletes do. The morning of the exam, Midoriya scrabbled around his room, scooping up notebooks and swiping pages of notes he'd taken about his quirk over the course of the past 10 months, prepping himself for the entrance exam. He met up with Lemillion right outside his door, and the duo traveled to UA together. Upon arrival, Midoriya turned to thank Lemillion, who wasn't even there. Midoriya took a deep breath, steeling his resolve for this exam, and took the first steps to his future. Unfortunately, those very steps were brought to a close with a single shove to his back. He fell face first in the asphalt, and based on the voice that came after, he didn't need to ask who. Bakugo loomed over him, fury in his eyes.
You really came here, didn't you, Deku? Looks like it's time for a little bit of pest control.
As he raises a fist, Midoriya flinches and closes his eyes. He braces for impact, but the punch never comes. He looks up to see Bakugo's fist cocked, teeth gritted, with a girl standing between him and Midoriya. Her arms were spread wide and she stood strong. The tension in the air was palpable. Finally, breaking the stalemate, Bakugo scoffed.
You're lucky I don't hit girls.
He huffed and turned around, stomping into the building while some of the other students muttered nearby. The girl in front of him sighs and helps Midoriya up, the latter of whom being a blushing mess. He profusely thanked the girl, and she introduced herself as Ochako. She wished him luck in the exam and walked up to the door with him, ensuring Bakugo didn't try anything again. He briefly explained that Bakugo constantly teased him, and Ochako looked a little concerned, commenting that this is well beyond just teasing, and at this, Midoriya turns away, having nothing to say to that. All of the applicants filtered into the assembly hall, Midoriya being very wary of Bakugo, who was seated right next to him. After a minute or so, President Mike entered the room with a burst of energy.
What's up, UA candidates? How's everyone doing today? Come on and let me hear ya! Okay, tough crowd, let's go right to the main show. Here's how the exams are going down. Ready? Okay, as you already know from your brochures, you're going to be doing 10-minute mock battles. Once we're done meeting here, you're going to be going to your designated battle centers. Sound good? Okay. Let's take a look at the enemies. There are 3 types of enemies, each worth different amounts of points based on difficulty. So choose your fights wisely. Your goal is to shred these villains like a mid-song guitar solo. But check it, attacking classmates is a big no-no, you dig?
A young man in the audience raises his hand.
Yes, you in the middle row.
The young man pipes up without skipping a beat. Excuse me, sir, but I have a question. It says here on the handout that there are 4 types of villains, not 3. If this is a print error, then this is unacceptable. UA is supposed to be the top hero school, and a mistake such as this simply won't do.
Alright, examinee number 171. Thanks for calling in with your request. The fourth kind of enemy is worth 0 points. He's just an obstacle we're throwing your way. You can beat him, but there isn't really a point to it. I recommend my listeners ignore it and go after the ones on top of the charts. That's all for today. I'll sign off with a little present for you. A sample of our school motto. As General Napoleon Bonaparte once laid out, a true hero is one who overcomes life's misfortunes. Now that's a tasty soundbite. You ready to go beyond? Let's hear a plus ultra! Good luck! Hope you practice hitting more than just books.
All the students filed out to their respective battle centers, and Midoriya was shaking the entire time. He thought about talking to Ochako, but realizes that maybe she's trying to focus like he is, so he gives her some space. He'll thank her after the fact. Suddenly, the intercom screeches, and a few students groan and mumble about the sound.
There we go, got the stupid thing working. Alright, let's go, go, go! There is no countdown in a real battle. Good luck!
Just like that, all the students were off to the races, and Midoriya was at the back of the pack. He bolted into the battle center, panicking and running headlong into a one-pointer. He froze for a moment before hardening his resolve and launching a large orb with a volleyball spike at the bot, which shattered into pieces. He got a half smile, but quickly remembered he needs to beat a lot more than that. This was further exemplified by other candidates screaming out what number they were at. I got 45 over here.
51.
43.
Nearly at 60. 29.
All the numbers buzzing around in Midoriya's head made him falter until he got the 7-minute warning from Present Mike. That snapped him out of his funk and he immediately got back on track. See, unlike in the original, where he has the pressure of meeting the expectations of the #1 hero, and of trying out his quirk for the very first time, he's only trying to meet his own expectations here, and he's also used his quirk and trained with it a lot. In addition, his determination outweighs his fear when it comes to fighting villains, seeing as he only had to deal with the sludge villain once, and he didn't even go unconscious during that single encounter. All these things together make Midoriya a far more potent force in this timeline, at least when it comes to the entrance exams. He calculated constantly in his head, bouncing between 1 and 2 pointers since he knew he could take them out with one shot apiece. He had racked up 17 points when something in the distance snapped. Then something else snapped. Then another and another. Large cables whipped through the air as they were severed from themselves. A behemoth bot awoke, crushing buildings in its wake. Nearby students began to panic. They lined the streets, pushing and shoving, trying to get out of the way of this monstrosity. The sound waves from its treads going over the asphalt shattered nearby windows. Midoriya fell flat on his rear, looking up in shock and horror at the gargantuan villain looming over him. This must be the 0-pointer, the obstacle they weren't supposed to fight. He turned to run, but stopped when he heard a yelp of pain. He slowly turned around, only to see Ochako pinned to the ground, underneath rubble, right in the path of the villain. Midoriya acted on instinct. He placed 2 wisps on the ground, one on the bottom of each foot, and launched all the steam he possibly could out of the arches of his feet. His shoes exploded from the contact with the spheres, but not before the massive recoil shot Midoriya up to the robot's face. He bellowed from the depths of his soul and summoned forth a massive wisp, his largest yet, rivaling the circumference of a wrecking ball, and clasped his hands together in a pose one might serve a volleyball in. He raised his arms above his head, the amount of steam nearly shrouding his body, and with one last scream, smashed the miniature star down at the bot's head. Not only did the sheer mass of the orb crush the head a significant amount and the speed knock it off balance, but the resulting explosion sent Midoriya hurtling away through the air. The bot exploded from the inside out, flames sputtering and sparks erupting from its interior, the treads stopping dead in their tracks. The inner machinations of the bot spewed outward, blasting holes in its metal shell. The entirety of the candidates stood in awe at the light show, completely still. And as the bot's eyes slowly dimmed, Midoriya began to black out. Before he was fully out, he felt a hand slap his back. He was spent, pale and tired, and the sudden lack of motion was the straw that broke the camel's back. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he slumped over, completely spent. The next thing Midoriya knew, he awoke in the UA nurse's office. The nurse herself spoke first.
You really did a number on your body. A bunch of torn muscles, both ankles broken, and all of your energy spent. You even burned some fat for some extra energy based on your health records. You're lucky your quirk is so compatible with your body. Your injuries are all healed up, though, and you should go right home and sleep, okay?
Midoriya nods, still very much out of it, and is picked up by his mother. She was contacted after the exam, and she inspected Midoriya several times over.
Oh good, you don't have any injuries left. You must be exhausted, Izuku. Please make sure you take care of yourself. Okay?
Midoriya nods, still exhausted, and falls asleep on the ride home. Once they arrive home, Midoriya heads straight to his room to rest up, and his mother makes him a large dinner for his efforts.
I'm really proud of you and all that you've done, Izuku. Whether or not you get in, I want you to know that.
This warrants a tearful family hug, and after dinner, Midoriya shuffles to his room, very much downtrodden. He had only gotten 17 points on the mock battle, and he barely passed the written section. At least based on his calculations. He just hoped and prayed that it would be enough to get him to pass. After a day or two, the results arrived, and Midoriya brought them to his room in a panic. He paused, debating on if he wanted the answer he gradually made obvious in his head, before tearing open the letter, expecting the worst. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. Did you guys enjoy this part? I tried my best to make it as accurate as possible again, and I really hope that shows. I also spent a bit longer editing the script this time around. But I want to know what you guys think. Did Midoriya pass? If so, how? And if not, why? Leave your comments in the description down below, and I'll see all of y'all beautiful people in the next video.
Goodbye!